Hello. We make a big deal these days about being authentic. We think about authentic antiques, don't we? What makes an antique authentic? Well, it has to have the correct qualities of being an antique. If you talk about a Louis XV chair, then we expect to find a chair that dates from the reign of Louis XV in France. We expect to have the same sort of style. We expect it to have the same shape. We might even expect it to be made by craftsmen whose names we know from the time of Louis XV in France. So obviously, being authentic, things have to have the same qualities that you'd expect of an item. So this is quite an important idea in the church. And from time to time, small churches like ours get termed vagante. An episcopus vagans, Latin for a wandering bishop, not a wandering minstrel, a wandering bishop. Referring to those sorts of prelates who once consecrated validly in an Orthodox church or a Roman Catholic church, who then go off on in legal terms, a frolic of their own. And often the term episcopus vagans is used as a pejorative, as a way of describing someone, a bishop who seems to be of a church that appears to be him and his wife. As I think is the case actually in a church in Ireland. A church consists of one bishop and his wife. So sometimes, as I say, small churches get accused of being vagante. They have a wandering bishop, wandering episcopacy, and they have no true authenticity. They've got no authenticity as a church. The Anglican Catholic Church is often accused of that, and I think particularly in this country where, of course, we are that small that one could be forgiven that because we have a bishop and just a handful of clergy that we might be seen as a vagante outfit. So what we need to do is to demonstrate authenticity. And authenticity, the question is asked, how is a church authentic? Now I've actually written about this in a little book. It's a little booklet. I'm trying to remember it's either called Not in the Communion or As It Was in the Beginning. There are two of these little booklets. But in one of them I actually demonstrate that the Anglican Catholic Church is an authentic church, that we might not be large, but at the very centre of it is Christ, and Christ the means to salvation, the commandments to love being central. We also have a what's the word? Founding document. I mean, yeah, that sounds a bit. That sounds decidedly iffy. Really, what should the founding document be of any church be? But Holy Scripture and the Church Fathers and the creeds especially, shouldn't they be the founding documents? Well, yes, but sometimes we just need a point of clarity. And our point of clarity is the affirmation of St. Louis. And if you look online, there are plenty of copies of it. And you find that there is a declaration of principles, that we are not We're not a church that's bound by the whims of bishops. We're not bound by we're not blown by the wind of strange doctrine. We have principles. One, for example, the principle is that we regard the first 7 ecumenical councils as being authoritative. And we see them as being authoritative over any of the sort of the Anglican formularies. So that things like the 39 articles and the homilies are only authoritative insofar as they agree with the 7 ecumenical councils. And so, for example, justification by faith alone, which is contained in the articles, is not required of the Anglican Catholic Church, because it is not found in the Church Fathers. We, therefore, have this document of principles, an organising document, which means that theoretically we could be any size, but we would expect to be bound by the affirmation of St. Louis. Likewise, the Anglican Church, particularly the more Anglican Protestant churches, such as the Reformed Episcopal Church, which hold the articles as being a formulary and binding, well, that gives them legitimacy, because, of course, you see, that is their ne plus ultra. You can't go beyond the articles. That's what the articles say. You can't. There is an organising principle, and I think that is the mark of an authentic church, that there is a clear organising principle. Because there are lots of wandering bishops. There's one in the United Kingdom who I won't name. Some of you may know who I'm talking about, but for decency's sake I will keep him anonymous. There is a wandering bishop who I think he does videos on TikTok, and he's constantly being upbraided by good theologians, good scholars of theology, to show that he's wrong. And one of the things he does is marry dogs. He's been known to conduct wedding service for pets. That's one of the things he does. There are other wandering bishops too, and you'll notice that they have their organising principles and never as clear as they should be. For us, the Anglican Catholic Church, the affirmation of St. Louis is a clear declaration of our principles. And for that reason, I think that gives us some authenticity, that the root, the whole business of St. Ignatius of Antioch, saying that the Catholic Church is where the bishop is and the people gathered around him celebrating the sacraments. That is fundamental to our theology. There are those who would say that we are not authentically Anglican, and by that they might say that because we do see things as more authoritative than the old Anglican formularies. But as I've sort of thought about before, that the church that's existed in England has existed from very, very early. There are even noises in the historical atmosphere that say that the church in England might actually be older than the church in Rome, which, considering that the trade routes opened up after 54 AD and the persecution in Rome wasn't until the 60s, there's potential. I won't say that there is anything there, but there's potential. But to say that we're not authentically Anglican, I think when you start to use the word Anglican. Anglican's a difficult word, and I've said so before, because it has existence before the Reformation, but it also has a slightly different meaning after the Reformation, and particularly sort of the 17th, 18th centuries, where they're trying to really distinguish the Church of England from being any of the non-conformist churches or the Roman Catholic Church or something like that. But I think from what we understand, it is that we are authentically Anglican because we do have the Book of Common Prayer. We do have, particularly in this country, 1549. And we do use English. We prefer English. There are occasions when Mass has been said in Latin, but only when that's been understood of the people, says he, quoting the articles. But English, I think, is the appropriate language, the vernacular, the high Anglican language, the language of Shakespeare, rather than the modern liturgies. There are those who would like to promote within Anglicanism the modern liturgies, the modern language liturgies, which I think aren't authentically Anglican because they don't use the same language as the prayer book. That's an argument, but I don't want to get into that sort of argument, really. So I rather think that the Anglican Catholic churches are authentically Anglican and authentically Catholic and are authentically Anglican Catholic. We are a real church. But to be honest, the proof of true Christian authenticity is Christ. And if any church at all, wants to be authentic, truly authentic, then they have to be a church, kuriakos, of the Lord's. You have to recognize Christ in them. So, yes, of course, there are dodgy priests, there are dodgy bishops, ones who don't espouse the love of Christ. And when I say love of Christ, I mean the love that we should show towards Christ and dispensing the love that Christ has for his people. The true authenticity of any Christian church is the measure to which they demonstrate the love of Christ to their fellow men. That's the true authenticity. And it doesn't matter whether you have all the wonderful high trappings of Anglo-Catholic worship, or whether you spout long texts of gospel. 1 Corinthians 13 comes into play. If I speak with the tongue of men or of angels, etc., etc. St. Paul's words come back to haunt us. Authenticity is found in that chapter of his letter to the Corinthians. That's where we should be looking to be authentic, and he lists. You read that text, and we read it in the Anglican Catholic Lectionary. We read that on Quinquagesima Sunday, the last Sunday before Lent, because that is the measure by which our fasting makes sense. Having love for neighbour, having love for anyone who comes through the church door, even if that person argues with you, even if that person storms out in a huff, even if that person denounces you as being satanic, as happens. Our duty is to give love, to show love, to will the perfection of that person in God. God as means of that perfection. God as the end of that perfection. That's our duty. And as a Christian priest, that it doesn't just fall to likes of me, it falls to every single member of my congregation. And they are a loving congregation. I'm very proud of them. They're small, but they're such a generous bunch of Christians. And I love them deeply. And I hope that you can say the same of your congregation, that you can look at each member of the church and see Christ in them. Dorothy Day always comes up with the hard things and saying, you know, our love for God is only as great as the love that we have for the person we like the least. But it's true, though. I think, you know, she's very much onto something. So, to be authentic, let's be authentic. Let's be authentic Christians before we're authentic this, that, and the other. And while I believe passionately that Anglican Catholicism is the way to go, I still see love in the churches that are not part of my communion. I still see Christ there, and I am thankful for it. So God bless you. God bless you if you are seeking authenticity or seeking authentic Christian belief. God bless you that you may see it, not just in word, not just in hearing, but experience it in your dealings with other people, experience it in the love that you are shown and that you show. God bless you if you are unhappy with the way that your church is not showing love, not giving love of Christ to the people. God bless you that you may, in your own ministry, as in your own calling as a child of God, may you give the love that you can give, so that your church may be given authenticity through the love that you show. And God bless you that all knit together in the love of Christ, with the love of Christ, we may enjoy that wonderful communion with God our Saviour. God bless you, and please pray for me.